not just making 60-second TikToks.
Are you doing like is it like a karaoke clip or something like that?
Kind of, yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to The Blonde American. I'm Haile Kucera. I'm your host. Thank you again for joining us on your Sunday evening. I am so glad to be joined by Breland. He is running for governor of Nebraska in November coming up. Oh my gosh, and as you guys know, Nebraska is my home state. I'm very protective of my Cornhuskers, and as a former Miss Nebraska, I'm so excited to have you on the show, Breland. So if you want to introduce yourself, of course, and introduce yourself, tell everybody why you're running for governor, what makes Nebraska so special to you.
Oh my gosh. I'll try to condense it. There's a lot of reasons why I'm running. Of course, my name is Breland Ridenour. Mainly I'm just, I'm young, but I've participated in a number of elections, and I'm just not seeing the candidates that I feel truly represent me and a lot of fellow Nebraskans that I know. They're not representing it, and I'm just tired of seeing politicians that aren't open, honest, and transparent. Can I help you? Aren't open, honest, and transparent. I'm tired of seeing that, and I want somebody who has a backbone, who's willing to stand up for what's right, not because it's either the popular or unpopular thing to do, but because it's the right thing to do. And in a nutshell, that's why I'm running. But I have many, many other reasons why.
Awesome, wonderful. Well, I see we have a co-host there. Do you want to introduce your co-guest there?
Sure, Mika. Come here. This is my 4-year-old petting right now. And look at this. This is Mika, my German Shepherd.
Perfect.
She's our guard dog. She keeps the house safe all the time. She's a lovable dog. Very, very sweet. But man, if somebody comes through the door that she does not know and she does not like, she's very, very aggressive.
That's it. So if the door knockers
I advise nobody trying to break into my house.
You had your warning, everyone. You had your warning.
That's
so
right.
Let's talk about some of your policies here, Breland, because I'm really excited, because I think one thing we're seeing is this shift in candidates is younger energy. I think that's something that America, and not just Nebraska, America as a whole wants, is this younger energy. We see people like Nancy Pelosi who, could definitely retire at any moment, I hope.
Yes.
And so we just want some new, fresh energy, fresh ideas, someone who maybe knows how to use social media. I don't know. But tell me a little bit about your grassroots campaign. Tell me why you think you're different than your other candidates that are running.
Oh, absolutely. So like you said, I am a grassroots supported candidate. So what that means is that I'm not any corporate pocket. I'm not in any political pocket, and not being a politician now. I come from the working class, the middle class. But because of that, I don't owe anybody anything. So I have no reputation that needs to be protected. So that allows me the freedom to be able to stand up and really say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done without fear or being able to, or needing to mince words or pull punches, right? Awesome. Which is one thing that differentiates me from a lot of my candidates. But the thing is that when it comes down to it, I think some of the glaring character differences between me and my candidates or opponents, is the fact that I'm very principle based, right? I believe that what's right is right, and it's going to stay right regardless of a perspective. For example, constitutional rights are constitutional rights. It's in politics you got to learn to compromise on certain things, right? But you got to take a stand on something. And constitutional rights is one thing I just am not willing and am not going to compromise on. And unfortunately, I've seen way too many elected officials in the past that seem to want to skirt around it and think that those are negotiable. And honestly,
Absolutely.
It's just not true.
Yep, absolutely. I think we've seen a lot of the amendments aren't a for sure thing lately in the recent days of our nation. So I asked on my TikTok what policies mean the most to people that are in our little community on our corner of the internet. So let's see what you have to say. So the first one was, what do you think about critical race theory in schools? Tell us what you think. Give us the whole hard, cold truth on that.
Okay, I think it's lunacy. It's stupidity at its finest. Honestly, we gotta look through the opposition right now and say, what is really stemming CRT? Is it? Well, we know it's not really race. We know that's bogus.
Right.
So what is it? Well, honestly, I believe it's a communistic agenda. Because if you look at the communistic agenda and the processes that they follow, you'll see that this is very obvious. This is one thing that they do. They attack the younger generation. And the whole point of CRT is to cause division. It's a supposed solution for a problem that's not there, but it's a problem that they want to create. They don't want to fix anything. It's a problem that is trying to be created, and it's like I said, it's stupid. I mean, I just can't be. I can't say. I mean, I could say a lot of other words about it, but there really is no significance to it whatsoever. It is based completely off of lies, and I don't stand for it one bit.
Absolutely. So we see this huge division going on, and anybody that has two eyes and not living under a rock can see that our country is very divided right now. How do you see that in schools? Because I think the big thing with critical race theory, why they're pushing it, is because they see so much division. Some would even argue, not myself personally, but some would even argue that this will help mend the division. What's another path that we can do in Nebraska to help really bring people together, as you know, instead of critical race theory?
Well, if you want to bring people together, you got to get things like critical race theory out of the way. A lot of the biggest divisions that we have today, I believe, is either an attempt at causing racism and our political differences, which actually bears some merit if you really think about it. Because right now the Republican Party is very divided. You have true hardcore conservatives and those that are very liberty minded, and then you have your rhinos. Right. And that's a big problem, because you look at Democrats and liberals, and while they may have some nuanced differences, they all will kind of still go the same way to support one or the other. But what we find right now is a lot of Republicans are very split. And so we've seen a lot of Republicans leave the party because of this. They either go libertarian or they go actually to the Democratic side, especially our generation, Haile, people around our age are just fed up with the political games. And that's dividing our even our state. And this whole racial diversion is dividing our state. You know, actually one of my opponents posted about CRT, and in the end of this video, it was saying how we need to have a colorblind future. And I think actually that's wrong. We don't need to be colorblind. We need to see different color, because we're all different, and we need to appreciate, respect, and love each other for our differences, and understand that we all have different strengths and weaknesses, not just assume that we're all one race or one color. No, we're not. We're all human, right? And we're all sinners.
Exactly.
Outside of that, we're all very different. We all come from different backgrounds and different experiences. And that's an awesome thing. And we need to take advantage of that.
100%. You know, now I live in California, and you get to experience so many cultures. So to really take color out of it is almost taking the culture out of it a lot of times. So I think to embrace that is so important and so special, and definitely to teach our kids that, where your culture is, what your culture brings to the table. I think is really the what do you call that? The founding, the platform of our flag. There we go. That's what I meant. Yes. Yeah,
that's absolutely
I was looking for the word. Okay, so our next one we were talking about is, as kids are going back to school, we see a lot of this back and forth with mandatory masks, mandatory vaccinations. What's kind of your take on that? Maybe not even in the schools, but just throughout the state. Do you believe in mandatory vaccination, mandatory masks? What about our kids' future this fall when it comes to school? What do you think?
I don't think any of it should be mandatory whatsoever. I think if people want to do it, then that's their prerogative, right? And if the current the past current pandemic, however you want to look at it, and any other future pandemic that may come through, I think if people want to go extra steps and extra measures to say, I feel protected doing this, that's their prerogative. I just do not believe people should force something on somebody else if they say, well, no, this isn't this isn't right for me, this isn't right for my kids, and I don't support this. I don't think it should ever be made mandatory. And especially injecting something into somebody's body. I absolutely do not agree with that whatsoever. And we need, and you know, in Nebraska right now, you can have a religious exemption currently, although some legislators are trying to get rid of it. You can have a religious exemption, but honestly, I think that isn't even enough. You should have, just saying no should be enough to say, no, I don't want it. You know, and I don't support that. I don't support it, especially in our schools, especially in our public schools.
Absolutely.
You know, our taxes pay for that. And I don't believe my taxes should pay for a school that's going to enforce my kids to wear a mask. And I say, no, we don't wear masks. I don't believe it's necessary for my kids. I don't force vaccines of my kids. But my tax is still paying, and the public school does not have the right to tell me that my kids cannot be there or that they must remain at home simply because my kids don't want to follow suit with what a small fraction wants to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big hot button topic right now. We're seeing even that, as you were talking about ways we are being divided. The vaccination thing is very divisive right now. So I'm hoping we can all come to a middle agreement about that. But I really like that you want to make it an option for your kids, and whatever you feel safe doing, do. And, I think it kind of works the other way around. No one should be shaming anyone for either side that you agree with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, Haile, this is one of those other things, like I said about CRT, is we have to look through. We can't keep taking everything for face value. There's always something else going on behind this. And we look at it and we say, well, these people just must be stupid. No, they're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. Yes. And they're smart people. They just have a different belief and a different outlook on reality and what the future should be like, which is an idea of a future which I completely disagree with. But the agenda behind it is something that we need to be able to recognize, and we need to call it out for what it is, instead of just fighting that front line. Really get to the root of the problem and fix it from there.
100%. I totally agree with you. So let's talk about one issue I know you are very passionate about, and that is being pro-life, protecting little babies in the womb. Tell us a little bit more about that, because nowadays, as we talk about the younger energy, that's not really a normal stance people our age take anymore. It's a very forgotten stance. So tell me a little bit about that and why that's so such a passion for you.
Sure. Well, the thing is that I do believe life is at conception, and why is it such a passion for me? Well, it's because I am a devoted Christian, and I do believe life is the most precious gift that we can have, and we need to cherish it 100%. And I believe our society normally does after the baby's born. Yes. We're not animals, right? We don't eat our dead, like a cat would eat it's part of its months of his litter. We just don't do that. We respect life and respect, those who have died. But all of a sudden it's like, if it's in the womb, then it doesn't count. And I don't buy that. And I don't believe, honestly, abortion is a political issue. It's a moral issue. That's one thing you can't compromise on, to say, well, it's not considered alive at 6 weeks, but it is at 9. Right. When that heart's beating, when it's there, that baby's there, it's there, and that's a life. And I believe we need to protect that. And in the state of Nebraska, and if somebody wants to get an abortion, they're just going to have to go to a different state. However, I don't think we should stop there and say, well, we're not going to do, we're going to outlaw abortion. We're going to make it illegal. We're going to defund Planned Parenthood. I don't believe any tax dollars should ever go to any sort of organization or group like that doesn't benefit the whole of all Nebraskans. But I would like to also tag on to this and say, well, we need to also fix the problems in our foster care system, and in our adoption system. I want to make those that parents could. So there are some individuals out there who are not able to care for that child, or find, if they don't want to have that child, instead of running to another state for an abortion, I would like to say, hey, let's get a better system that we can get those babies adopted, right? Let's get them out there, or get some ways to help single mothers to be able to care for those children. I don't want to neglect those children and just say, oh, well, you just have to have the baby, and then the baby's found in a dumpster somewhere.
Exactly.
This is a big issue, and I want to have a solution that encompasses all aspects of it, and that foster care and adoption care or adoption is also part of it. So I don't want to neglect that either.
I love that. I love how you are a solution man. You bring up a problem, but you also have a solution. A lot of times we hear politicians, especially nowadays, just say what the people want to hear, and just that's it. When you get to the problem, maybe we'll cross that bridge, who knows? So I really like that you're one step ahead and having solutions there. So one question we were asked is, what is your stance? And I know this was a big thing this last year with Pete Ricketts, on legalizing marijuana in the state of Nebraska. It's because I'm always in California and it's legal here. It's different. But I was kind of looking at some statistics when you're talking about child care and foster care. Those are some big expenses for the state to really take it to the next level. Colorado last year brought in in the last 6 years. So while Pete Ricketts has been in office, Colorado collected $1.6 billion of tax money on the marijuana industry, and he used it for schools, for healthcare in Colorado. Let me know what you think about that, and what Nebraskans can expect if you do get to live in that beautiful governor's mansion in Nebraska?
Sure, sure. And it's a great question. And, and it's not, it's a topic that it requires a lot of thought into it. And I'm going to break that down for you as fast as I can here. But I like to preface this question and say, one, I don't smoke marijuana. So I have no skin in the game. I have no interest in smoking that. Okay. But I'm also a liberty-minded and principled individual. And I believe that people should have the right to choose what they want to put into their bodies. So let's first start with medical marijuana. I am a proponent for medical marijuana. I've seen way too many examples and instances where even right here in Nebraska, where Nebraskans are saying, this is the only thing that's worked for my child that has either anxiety or tremors or cerebral palsy or just whatever the case may be. And I don't believe the government has the right to deny Nebraskans this relief that works.
Absolutely.
Again, I told you I'm a devoted Christian. I believe that God created all things. Marijuana in its true form is a plant that was created by God and is an herbal plant. And again, in its true form. Now, I know some of the big issues is marijuana that is laced with something like LSD or something else. Those are problems. And we need to make sure that when we look at this, that we are separating those two and understanding that some issues people have had with marijuana usually isn't because it's just marijuana. Usually there's alcohol involved, or it's been laced with something, or they're doing some other drug on top of that. So I'm a proponent for medical marijuana. As for recreational marijuana, I'm not against it. I just want to make sure that if Nebraskans really want that and we want to push that forward, we need to have a solid plan so that we can avoid the pitfalls that Colorado and California have found. So we can avoid those issues. But also not infringe on that right for Nebraskans. A number of years ago, I actually did my own little study, my own little poll, and I asked people, and I said, well, if marijuana became legal, would you start smoking it? And I was probably about, I'd say 30, 40 responses, and it was a wild majority said, I still wouldn't even do it. And a few said they would try it, and a couple said, yeah, I probably would. But most people, just because it's legal doesn't mean people are going to do it.
Right, exactly, yes.
And I've talked to sheriffs, I've talked to police officers about this, and they're all like, we don't have any problem with it. They're like, actually, it would help us out because we have a prison problem here. So it all ties in.
It so does, yes.
And so,
I hope Kamala Harris is listening to this because she is.
But it would help with our prison reform. It would help, like I said, bring in additional tax revenue, and God knows we need that. It would bring in the extra tax revenue, and a lot of people in Nebraska already smoke it. I know a number of people already smoke it right now, and I think that we can do that, and we can still put some regulation on it, such as like some states have done. I think Washington has it right now. Not that that's a model state, but but in terms of marijuana, it's you can have a small amount, but anything over an X amount of marijuana is considered dealing, and that's something that we can always take into consideration. I think I'm open to a good discussion, and I want to get good minds on it. I want to get the right minds on it. And I want to make sure we have a full 360-degree perspective of the plan and how we're going to execute it and what pitfalls we may find and how do we avoid those. I just want to be smart about it. But I don't see any issues with it, we just got to roll it out in a smart way.
Absolutely. And luckily we have states like Colorado, Washington, and California where we can just learn from their mistakes and be like, hey, we're not going to do that one. So that's awesome. That is awesome. I'm obviously very pro marijuana, so that's good to hear. Yay. I think it really may have rubbed people the wrong way when it wasn't even on the ballot this last time around. And I think that in itself, it's like, Mr. Ricketts, do you have some explaining to do? I don't know, but so I'm really glad that is your stance. I think that's a wonderful stance as well. Let's move on to one of, I know a lot of Nebraskans' favorite topics is the Second Amendment. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as of April, I'm sure everybody who lives in Nebraska knows, Pete Ricketts did make Nebraska a Second Amendment sanctuary state, which is amazing. So we really love our guns there. So talk to us a little bit about your plan for Second Amendment. If you plan to make any changes, like where we're at, let us know.
Absolutely. So unlike the marijuana position where I said I did not smoke marijuana, I'm absolutely a gun owner.
Woo! We really had a
100% of
full
all the big black
360
scary
there.
ones too.
Love
So,
it. Love it.
but in my case, they're OD green. But anyway, I digress. I am 100% supportive of the Second Amendment, but I get, this topic is really big and important to me as well. And I get tired of candidates that just say, well, I support, I'm a hunter, and I support Second Amendment. Okay, well, that's great. But there's much more to it than that. And I think something that we need to consider is that, okay, we support the Second Amendment, but Nebraska, our current laws today, infringes on our Second Amendment, right? And one of those ways would be the concealed carry permit. I have a concealed carry permit, and I think it's absolutely ludicrous because it doesn't make firearms less deadly, and it doesn't keep it out of the hands of criminals. All it does is cause a bigger issue. It makes it harder for Nebraskans to be able to carry properly and appropriately and defend themselves. That's the only thing it does. That's an infringement. I believe in constitutional carry. Let people carry where they want, when they want. I don't see any issue with that. I would like to also get firearm safety, handling, and manipulation training back into schools, right? Like some high school level, get back in there, some simple training, some basic stuff. One thing I always say too is that even if they become an adult and don't want anything to do with guns, that doesn't mean that there will never be a point where they may need to use a firearm to protect themselves or somebody else, right? And I know a lot of people are scared of guns and they don't like them. In my observation experience is because they never had any opportunity to even use them. A lot of people I talk to, they've never even shot a gun, or if they have, it's one or two. And there was no real good training to it and understanding of the tool. And I've seen a lot of people who have been anti-gun. Once I take them out and we shoot and we teach them and show them, hey, there's actually a really safe way to doing this. Then they start respecting, understanding, and like, okay, now I understand why people carry this. But ultimately, an armed society is a polite society, and I've had experiences where people have been irate about an issue, and once they see that I'm carrying a firearm, it diffuses the situation very quickly. And I think that's good, and I think that's what we need. And it's worked well in many other cases, like Kennesaw, Georgia. They had a city ordinance passed. I don't know if you knew this. City ordinance passed that it was back in the 80s, I believe, where every household had to own and maintain a firearm and, and ammunition to go with it. Yeah, with a few exceptions. Crime rate across the board dropped over 86%, I believe it was, the next year. Just plummeted. And it's one of the safest, if not the safest city to live in the United States. They went 25 years with only 3 murders, 2 of which were with a knife and 1 with a firearm. Wow. And so it just goes to show that that an armed society can be and is a polite society. And so I support that. I don't support these bans on binary triggers, high capacity magazines. And I would love to, I plan on introducing, whether it be through executive order and or legislation, is what Missouri did, that bans any federal infringement on any federal enforcement of federal laws against the Second Amendment, right? And any law enforcement agent, federal law agent that's doing that will actually be held accountable, arrested, and held in court by the state. I believe we would do that. We need to tell the federal government to back off. You can take your gun laws and regulations and stuff, but the sun don't shine for all I care.
Goodbye.
Just get out of here. We're not going to do that. So that's what I support. I like to constitutional carry and get rid of these stupid permits.
Awesome. I love that. And I know a lot of people will be very happy to hear that, as our current administration has definitely waged a big war on our Second Amendment rights. So to have really strong leadership against that is super powerful right now. And definitely something as we move into 2022, I think we're going to see a huge wave, because that's a big thing. People are Republicans are really getting on top of, is those Second Amendment rights. So I'm really glad to hear that. So here's a fun question. What about election integrity in Nebraska? Now, I know a lot of people probably, they focus on these bigger states like Georgia and Arizona that are going through just some realignments of their laws going on out there, just to make sure everybody feels the safest they can when they vote. For Nebraska, although we voted red, blue. Do you support any type of revisions or maybe re-looking at anything that has happened in past elections in Nebraska?
Oh, absolutely. Look, the 2020 election, let's just forget who was running for example, okay? Let's
Hmm.
forget it was Trump and Biden, whomever, whatever. There is evidence that the election system was tampered with unlawfully in multiple states. That, in my opinion, based off principle, would say that's enough to warrant an investigation. And we didn't
Absolutely.
get that up until now, I guess. And in Nebraska, I recently talked to our Secretary of State Bob Ebnen, and I am planning on meeting with him here very, very shortly to actually discuss it. I know he holds firm that in Nebraska our election was on the up and up, and I'm not
Good.
necessarily saying that it was or wasn't, but I don't want to be reactive. I want to be proactive, because let's assume our election had 100% integrity, everything was okay in the state of Nebraska. Why wait
Hmm.
until there is a problem? We know there can be a problem. And so I want to be proactive in securing that election. And that's one thing, people say, well, what would an IT guy know? Because I'm an IT manager by trade. They say, well, what would an IT guy know about running as a governor and running a state? Well, the thing is that technology is in play just about everywhere we go, from agriculture to also our election system.
Absolutely.
I have contacts that have worked in the election arena with the election systems, and I totally understand that no computer system is ever fully protected. There's always potential for risk, and there's vulnerabilities, and they can be manipulated. And there are many ways still to be able to do that. And if anybody understands, I'm one of those individuals. And so that's why I don't want to sit on my hands. I want to get out there, and I want to make sure that if we had problems, they get fixed, right? And if we haven't
Absolutely.
had any problems, then we make sure we don't have any problems. So the election is very, very important to me, because it's really the one thing that we have as Americans to be able to have control of our government. And when we don't have a fair election system and we can't trust that, what else do we have left?
Absolutely. 100%. I know election integrity is so important to people. Whether
Mhm.
you think anything nefarious happened, it's just good to have that security in our elections, no matter
Yes.
who you are, no matter who you voted for. It doesn't matter. So speaking of that, what would you say to maybe some people that are on the fence about having a Republican leadership? I know Pete Ricketts is Republican, but
Mhm.
more conservative values versus this kind of shift we see in Nebraska that's going a little bit blue, as we saw in this last election. What would
Mhm.
you give? What would you say to those Democrats? Maybe they're younger, maybe they're our age. That why they should vote for you?
Yeah, great question. And here's what I tell people is that I am running as a Republican, but I am what I call a true conservative Republican. And what that means is I'm not here for the political rhetoric, or just to tell people what they want to hear, because I am tired of getting that. That's why I'm
Yes.
running, because I'm sick of seeing candidates like that, and I want somebody who I would want to elect, right? And so I would tell those Democrats, I said, the thing is why I'm a true conservative Republican, which means I'm also very liberty minded. And liberty applies to both Republicans, Democrats, liberals, and conservatives, and everybody alike. I mean, who doesn't like
Absolutely.
having the option to say, I can live my life the way I want to, right? And my
Hmm.
rights of free speech, and free of unwarranted seizures and searches and whatnot, all that's being
Yes.
protected. I mean, that benefits everybody, right? Our right to
Absolutely.
vote being protected benefits everybody. Having government that stays in check benefits everybody. And I'm the kind of person that's going to stand up, and I'm going to say that I'm going to protect that. I'm going to get in between our federal government and our state, and that's even a Republican federal government. Let's assume the federal government becomes all red again, right? That
Hmm.
doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything they've done, and I don't always agree with everything that they do. And there have been some cases where even they infringe on our constitutional rights. And I can assure you,
Absolutely.
if that's the case, I will still stand up and say, no, you guys are off axis. You're doing the wrong thing here, and I'm not going to stand for it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I think we see a lot of people, I personally label it as political orphans right now, where people are
Yeah,
like, they see all this division in the Republican Party, and then they kind of
right.
see the Democrats going like a little too far left for their comfort zone. So I think having someone that's just wants to stand up for people being able to just live their life, like just
Mhm.
how you want to live it. So speaking of that, one of the big topics as well going on right now is trans boys and girls sports and vice versa. What's your stance on that? I have a feeling I can probably guess what it is, but I'd like to hear your stance on that in the schools.
Yeah, I no, you just look. There's only two genders, male and female. I mean, you can go back to the Bible. You can go back to just base science, right? That is proven. That's just the case. You know, and there are some individuals who are actually born with both styles of genitalia, although be it rare. But even still, while they may have a physical feature, their bodies are still one gender or the other, right? And the reason I say that is I don't mean to get graphic or inappropriate, but my point is that someone is always only one of those two genders, right? And that's not going to change. And men are different than women. Okay, I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but what I am trying to say is that they're both very unique and they both have wonderful attributes and strengths, right? And they both have unique weaknesses, and we need to respect and appreciate that. But when we try to bring them all in and say, well, the guy is now a girl, acts like a girl, you know, or associates as being a girl, well, you know, here's the thing, is whatever. If that's what you want to do in your life, if that's what you want to do in your home and do that, then you do you, dude, or do that, you know, whatever you want to do. You know, whatever. So just don't force it on everybody else to say, well, I'm this way, so now I get, you know, if I'm a man, well, I get to use the women's restroom, or I get to play women's sports, right? No, I don't believe that should be the case, because it's not the same, and it also goes back to what we're talking about, like with CRT. It divides our country because it breaks down the nuclear family. It breaks down what is true and logic, and that is that there are only two genders. And when we confuse people and we change their perception of reality, they get confused, and it becomes very difficult to kind of make heads and tails of the world that we live in. So then we just tell them, oh, well, that's okay, you don't need to, you can just be whatever you want to be, you know, dude, just whatever feels good. And that doesn't work. That creates and breeds a society that becomes ripe for being taken over by those with an evil agenda. And we have those people in the world. They've been here ever since the beginning of the world, and they're not going anywhere.
Yep. Absolutely. So we got to have one more very, this might divide us, you and I. Does pineapple belong on pizza, Breland? That's the question on everybody's minds. We need to know. We need to know where to put our votes, and this is it.
I'm really glad you asked it. So in college, I had to do a research paper, and I wrote on the fact that should pineapple be on pizza. I have a lot of research. I have a lot of. I actually brought guests in, doctors and PhDs that can. No, look. The answer is it depends. Okay, here's how it depends. Is in most cases I would say no, but I am a lover of pineapple. I'm a lover of pineapple. It doesn't belong. But if it's a Hawaiian pizza that is designed to be under the theme of Hawaiianness, and I think it could fit, but only in that instance. Everything else, no. You just can't put. It just shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be.
You heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. It shouldn't be on pizza.
And my wife is Italian, and she agrees that pineapple shouldn't be on pizza. And so if she says so, then you know it's legit. I'm sorry, guys. It's just the way it is.
Happy wife,
and I'm willing to write an executive order that says that, or not executive order, but a what's that? Ricketts has done a couple of them where it's like an announce or a proclamation, I guess.
A proclamation, yes. We're making that stamp in Nebraska. Oh my goodness.
Hey, so we're gonna put us on the map.
Exactly. So where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? How do they kind of move forward? If they want to support your campaign, where can they go?
Yeah, so the first place they can go is my website, which is at ridenour4governor.com. That's RIDENOUR forgovernor.com. It's a great way to be able to email us through that. As well as Facebook. I'm always on social media, especially. And Haile, I do want to say I make it a priority to try to respond to all correspondence myself, especially those that ask questions. Awesome. If anybody from my campaign team does respond, they will say, that it's the campaign team. In all other cases, it's going to be me responding, because it's very valuable to me to actually hear the opinions and hear the thoughts and the questions of Nebraskans directly, because I value that. And you know, and even those of which I've gotten emails from those who are registered Democrats who are asking me questions, and I still value those as well. So, you know, even just messaging on Facebook is great. Messaging through my Facebook page, I'm open to all of it. If they would like to donate, again, I'm a grassroots supported candidate, which means that I depend on Nebraskans, right, to be able to fund what I've been able to do so far. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported my campaign in one way or another. But they can also donate through my website at ridenourforgovernor.com.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Breland. I really appreciate it. I know Nebraskans are really wanting to be educated voters this next election cycle. And November 8th, 2020, right? That's when we all head to the polls. Is that correct?
Well, that's general election. It's actually, I believe, May 8th is the primary.
Oh, so May 8th is primaries. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, I hope, I think we got everybody's questions answered. And I want to thank you so much again, Breland, for jumping on here and giving Nebraskans the fight. And now we know where you stand on pineapple on pizza. So I think that'll be big.
Is it?
All right. Well, you have a good night, Breland. Thank you so much again. And hopefully we can get you on the Redpill Project at some point to kind of ask more in-depth questions. I know Josh probably has a lot of questions he wants to ask you. I'm sure his wheels are turning up there. I can already see it. So I hope you have a good night, Breland. Tell everybody in Nebraska and your family I say hi. And you guys can join us next Sunday, 5 p.m. right here on The Blonde American, and find us on social media. All right, guys, have a good night.
Thanks, Haile. Bye-bye.
Of course. Bye.